So next Saturday night, we are going to sit down to celebrate the freedom of Passover. And we will have emptied our houses of chametz. We will have purged those dishes, or I should say pots and pans that can be purged, and we will have replaced or gotten new ones or somehow traded out for other ones to get rid of all of the potential chametz that is absorbed into any dish. Traditionally on the Shabbat, immediately before Pesach, it's called Shabbos HaGadol, not named after Jack Light, but, well, because you're Ben Gadol, right? So I always think, when I think Shabbos HaGadol, I think of you. It's just, you know. One of these days it'll coincide with your birthday, and then we'll have like Shabbos HaGadol, and then it will be like really the Gadol of Gadols. But until then, it's Shabbos HaGadol. Yes, okay. We'll have Shabbos HaGadol next week, which traditionally is when the rabbi gives a large sermon reminding everybody about the key points of the Haggadah and the key points of how to kosher their home. And being that next week my Shabbat sermon will consist of Musaf begins on page 159. That's it. 279. It was with a 9 and an odd number in the middle. 279. Other than that, I'm not going to give. So I thought I'd give an extra long sermon today, but no. For real, Pesach is an amazing holiday, and some years I dread it, and some years I look forward to it. And the reality is that this year I'm looking forward to it. And I'm not sure why. I think because I'm letting go of certain parts. I'm letting go of the need to, not the need to kosher. Our house is going to be completely koshered, and we do every year. But I'm also learning, as I learn more and more halachot, I'm learning that there are actually easier ways to kosher certain things, and there are more and more food products that actually can be eaten on Pesach than we normally do. If you want to know about that, speak to me during Kiddush. I'll be happy to elucidate some of the ideas that I've actually learned in some deep study. But being that as it may, well, let's see. Next Saturday night, we will have cleaned, we will have cooked, set the table, maybe just gotten into a car and drove to somebody else's house, in which case, can I be bold enough to suggest that you offer to wash the dishes if you just drove? We'll welcome the guests, we'll pour the wine, and we'll continue to follow along the step-by-step instructions that come in the Haggadah. The Haggadah tells us each step. Sit here, stand here, raise your cup here, put your cup down here, uncover here, say this line here, drink here but lean this way, don't lean for this, say this blessing, uncover, recover, raise above your head, put it back down, and on and on. The Haggadah tells us exactly what to do. But let's be honest for a minute. Now, I got to tell you, I was actually planning for Mark Boyack to be here today. He's not. Rick is here instead, because I was going to put Mark on the spot. But imagine for a minute that this is your very first Passover Haggadah, like when I had Mark and his wife to our house, and you come in, and you come thinking you're coming for a Passover celebratory meal. And you sit down. And they hand you an instruction manual. And you look around, okay, and they tell you to open it and to pour a glass. But don't pour your own glass, pour for the person next to you. That's what we always do. Okay, you pour for the person next to you. Why? Because we are free, and a free person shouldn't have to pour for themselves. So we pour for the person next to us. And then we raise the glass, and we stand up, and we say, and we sit down, and we drink, and almost spill. Okay, now we can eat, right? So what's the purpose of the night? Why are we going through all of this? What is the primary commandment? Rabbi Factor, I'm putting you on the spot now, all right, you know? What's the primary commandment of the Seder? Oh my God, did you read what I wrote? Of course. to tell the story of Higarata Levincha. Tell the Exodus story to your children. So I want to ask you, in a regular Seder, if you just go through the basics, how many different ways can you count that we tell the story? Shout them out if you can think of one way we tell the story. Okay, the classic lines, the classic verses, Deuteronomy 26, 5 through 8. My father was a wandering Aramean, went down to Egypt in great numbers. They enslaved us. We cried out to God. God freed us. Da, 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 da. So there's one way. How else do we actually tell the story? Through food. Give me an example. The charoses, the maror, the salt water. Okay, so we've got food. What else? Singing. Which song? Dayenu. If you go through every verse of Dayenu, it takes you through the entire story. How many people go through every verse at their Seder? Raise your hand. How many people are told to shut up by their children as they try and go through every verse? What? Just one child? Oh, just one person tells you to stop? Okay. What about the four sons? When we tell the parable of the four children, the four sons, each one of them is an answer that actually, if you go through all of them, kind of tells the basics of the story in a different way. Okay? What about Manish Tanah? If you actually read the questions and the answers that are in the Haggadah right there, we tell the story. There's 5. Any more? How about Rabban Gamliel? That's food, but it's symbolic food. We say, Rabban Gamliel says, anybody who doesn't say these 3 things at their Seder has not fulfilled the obligation, and they are Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. And then we say, Al Shuma. Why do we say the Pesach? Because da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But how else? What? Avadim hayinu. Lefaro b'Mitzrayim. Avadim hayinu, right? Okay. But how else could we tell the story? Well, I asked for some help from a reporter from the Nile Daily Standard who sent me a video, and I read you the transcript. In a stunning turn of events, the Israelites have successfully fled the confines of their enslavement, following a series of catastrophic plagues that have wreaked havoc across the land. Eyewitnesses' accounts describe the scene as chaos and liberation as thousands of Israelites make their way towards freedom. After a seemingly endless period of oppression under Pharaoh's rule, tensions boiled over when a series of divine plagues struck Egypt, each more devastating than the last. What happens if we turn the entire Seder into news headlines and ask each person, as I've done for those coming to my Seder this year, to be a news reporter on one section of the Seder? Give me a headline. Come on, give me a headline, anybody. Country attacked by unheard number of locusts. Jews seem to have food, is the subheadline. What? Right. What else? Another headline. Well, so I asked for another help. Egyptians drown, Jews walk to freedom. But then I said, what happens if Passover this year is a midday TV soap opera? Episode 15, Tides of Destiny, the great Exodus unfolds. Previously on Tides of Destiny, tensions rise as Pharaoh struggles to maintain control, while his once loyal subjects, the Israelites, plot their daring escape from a life of servitude. Love triangles, betrayal, and a series of catastrophic plagues have left our characters teetering on the edge of despair and hope. Join us this week at noon. I'm not reading the entire thing because it gave me an entire script. And then I asked what would happen if the Seder were a Jon Stewart monologue. Welcome back, folks. Let's dive into the crazy saga of Exodus, because who doesn't love a story about mass escape from oppressive regime? It's like the original Escape from New York, but with more plagues and fewer cool sunglasses. My point is, and I have more, but I'm not going to do them all because Robin Williams, I tried to do the Robin Williams one. If you read it, it sounds like him, but when I do it, it doesn't sound like him. But if anybody wants to read it afterwards, it is funny. Definitely funny. You can just imagine his voice. My point is that we tell this story every year. And every year, we tell the same story, and yet we have to make it real. We have to make it relevant. We have to make it because it says in the Mishnah, B'chol dor vador chayav adam lirot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim. In each and every generation, a person has to see themselves having gone out from Egypt. Now the reality is that none of us were ever slaves. None of us were under the oppression of slavery. None of us know what that possibly could even be like, as much as we might read about it, imagine it. So how do we make it relevant? Going out from an oppressive regime, fighting for your freedom, believing that God will help if you take the first step. Remember that God didn't just take the Jews out, but the Jews had to take the first step. And the first step that the Jews did was slaughtering that lamb and painting their blood on the doorposts of their homes. Why is that the first step? Because the lamb was one of the symbols of a god of Egypt. And them saying, we are going to slaughter this false god that has enriched one community over another and oppressed another, and we are going to slaughter that false idol as a sign of freedom that we are breaking away from the false oppressiveness of the world that we are stuck in, is a step of saying, this is not all on God, but we are taking action for our own freedom. We are taking action to change our destiny. Yes, God is part of it. Yes, God brought the plagues. But without us taking action to make it real in the Seder and in our lives, we can never fulfill the commandment, Chayav adam lirot et atzmo, that each and every person must see themselves having gone out from slavery. And so I invite you to make it real. Rabbi Factor, plug your ears, because I work with him at Frankel Jewish Academy, and what I'm about to say is not allowed at Frankel Jewish Academy. But go to an AI model, ChatGPT, and come up with your most creative thing and ask it to help you create something. You didn't hear that. Yes, but you don't want to know that I'm encouraging AI. I will tell you, because my kids aren't here, the secret that I did this year for the Afikomen. You can take this as my closing gift to you. I thought of 5 different places in our house. And I asked ChatGPT to create a treasure hunt, one clue leading to the next, in the style of Dr. Seuss. So that each clue, and then it gave something really easy that like a kindergartner could figure out, and I said, ChatGPT, you can do better, please make that. I always say please to ChatGPT. I don't know why, but I always say please to it when I type in. And it's a computer, but whatever. I always said, please make this harder for teenage kids. And it came back with a fantastic rhyming Dr. Seuss-esque treasure hunt for the Afikomen. Use the tools that are out there to help you feel a sense of freedom as we all make our way out of Egypt. Shabbat Shalom and Hag Sameach.